overly saturated purples and greens, your eyeballs glued to a flickering CRT TV in a dimly lit living room, staying up past your bedtime just to hear the satisfying pop of a jackal shield powering down.
These are a few of my favorite things.
Speaking of satisfying, the Halo Magnum sure is. That metallic clink of the pistol whacking Marine's armor, the chunky sound of the assault rifle, splattered purple blood that you swore to your parents was just spilled paint. And of course, a Banshee coming in from 50 meters away just to splatter you.
These are a few of my favorite things.
I wanted to create a painting that encapsulated how playing Halo Combat Evolved felt.
To make you feel like
Master Chief.
For me, there were three design pillars that I had in mind: texture, or the stylistic influence, color choice, and subject matter. So what weapons, buildings, environments would be featured. Let's start with color. I can recall being hunched over, sitting on the floor, playing Halo at my older brother's friend's house. The entire room was lit up by the glow of a CRT displaying Halo. That in contrast with humans generally seeing a wider array of saturated colors when we're younger. In addition with the game's actual color palette, I always recall Halo CE being very saturated and intense, dominated by hues of purplish blue skyboxes and shadows cast on rocks, with the foliage of Installation 04 being populated with these intense greens. The Covenant themselves were a different reddish shade of purple, and who can forget copious amounts of blue-purple blood spilling out of the aliens when they're continuously shot. There was also lots of chrome and matte brutalistic architecture littered throughout the game. Now, a game being chrome and matte sounds like an inherent contradiction, but that's really the best way I can describe the original Forerunner architecture, and I believe many people forget just how chrome the original Mark V armor was in that game. This leads me right into the second design pillar, subject matter. Every iconic piece of Halo concept art I can recall seeing as a kid featured the Chief in some cool pose, holding one of the game's iconic weapons. Now, I couldn't choose whether to feature the Magnum or the assault rifle, as I'd argue they're both equally iconic for this first game, so naturally I cheated and featured both. I do think in terms of going for a chromium look for his armor, I was sort of battling my focus on giving the armor mud, blood, and metallic scratches, so I feel that I sort of underemphasized the chrome aspect. It could also be my bias towards his Halo 2 and Halo 3 looks taking over my creative direction. Aside from the Chief, I chose to set him on the level Halo, cause I mean, come on. Everyone who's played this game will never forget their first time stepping foot on the ring, with the Halo ring itself rising up from the horizon. And as you're left admiring this beautiful alien world, you instantly get killed by your first experience with a Covenant vehicle, the Banshee. Including the Banshee also allowed me to include the Covenant in the painting alongside a painting that is primarily highlighting the Master Chief. The flare of the Banshees have always stuck with me as well. They're just like this basic glowing ball of orange with a pure white center, but whenever the orange would overlap with the wing, sometimes it would make like this purplish red color. And as mentioned earlier, setting it on the level Halo let me feature the classic Halo rocks, grass, and coniferous trees, as well as show off a Forerunner structure. As these structures have a very specific design language. They are these awkwardly shaped, brutalist structures made of simple polygons with an almost rusted and matte texture. They look weathered, yet from certain angles they would seem to shine and have a slight opalescent glossy look to them. I achieved this look way faster than I'd anticipated, knowing that the Chief would cover most of the structure anyway. All it took was to get that weathered and worn texture correct atop the structure's iconic shape, and then I painted in some very garish reds, yellow, and blues, and overlaid a linear light layer, and I think it did the trick. And last but not least, I had to include the generic sci-fi bright blue beam shooting into the sky because, you gotta have it. And then going back to the weathered texture of the Forerunner building, it takes me to a man by the name of Craig Mullins. A name you may not know, unless your last name is Mullins and you have an uncle named Craig, in which case you probably hear it quite often. If I could sum up Craig Mullins in a single sentence for the layman, I'd say he's like the Michelangelo of digital painting. The man has mastered texture, digital brushes, photo bashing, and evoking mood for games with individual paintings. He is truly a modern-day grandmaster painter. As long as you're a fan of video games, you'll know his work. I'm talking Assassin's Creed, Age of Empires, and of course, Halo. But just saying I want to use his work as inspiration for this painting isn't helpful if I don't clarify which aspects I hope to use to guide my own Halo painting. So, let's quickly identify a few key aspects of his work. This man has mastered shadows. He's mastered the art of leading your mind to fill in the details. The man is economical with his brushwork. He doesn't paint more than he needs in order to get the point across, and that's crucial when it comes to artists working in concept art, where time is restricted and you need to just communicate ideas and mood more than anything. In my painting, you can see the areas where I wanted to cast a heavy, thick shadow and chose not to overly render, or I avoided adding unnecessary detail to something like the grass. It's about controlling where the viewer's eye is going with your painting. Craig Mullins knows that the chief's arm isn't the highlight of this painting. Hell, most of the gun detail isn't important. What matters is that you glance at this painting and your mind basically goes, yo, that's Halo Master Man and he's holding a battle rifle. That's all we need to see. It's form from chaos. For me, the grass being rendered blade by blade wasn't important. The parts of the shadow on the Master Chief's body being a near total black, and there are areas of rest for you, the viewer's eyeball, after looking at all this gritty detail of a battle-worn, blood-splattered Mjolnir armor, which leads me right into texture. Now, Craig Mullins and many of his peers in the concept art world use a technique called photo bashing. Take this piece of artwork done for The Last of Us 2. The artist lays in paint for the color, mood, and setting of the painting, and then overlays faint photographs to quickly give the painting more texture and add context to the scene. Here's another example of a marathon piece by Mullins. Now for me, I approach my work in a very traditional manner. I go from pencil sketch to defined line work, and I paint every single brushstroke that your eyeballs soak up. I'm slower by comparison, but it's just how I personally get from A to B in finishing a painting. The biggest challenge I faced here was not allowing the photo to guide me, right? My direction is captaining the ship, not the photo. But that can be hard when the photo is so detailed and your painting is still a work in progress. You'll notice something I did here was that I brought in a photo and instantly distorted and crushed its original visual meaning, so that way I wouldn't stray too far from my intended vision. Or you can see here, I used my sweet first ever $10 from my Patreon, thank you patrons, and reinvested it into the channel by ordering this cool Master Chief toy so that I could also use for reference. Now, granted, it cost me $40 plus shipping and tax, so my budget is in the negative already, but that's not what's important here. In fact, I liked some of the random toy details, like the hole on the leg joint and these little weird bright blue squares, and I overlaid them onto my painting for added visual greebling. And another thing to note in regard to my reference photos, one, I didn't have some fancy setup. I literally used the screen with my original thumbnail sketch on screen on my iPad as a light source. And then I just propped up my toy while trying to keep my fingers from obscuring too much of the figure. And two, the final lighting in my painting doesn't match up perfectly with my reference. I made a rough sketch before I shot any reference. I didn't trace over the figure in the photo. I drew him as I saw it and made adjustments to the pose and lighting as I saw fit. Remember, your reference photos as an artist, just as photos if you're photo bashing, are there to be guided by you into what you want. They do not do the guiding. They assist you in getting a better idea for the proportions of a character or understanding how light will spill across a figure. They're not there to be copied one-to-one, otherwise why are you even painting anything at all? Also, quick tip, if you want to ensure that you're ethically photo bashing, you can use websites and apps like Pixabay and Unsplash to find non-copywritten photographs. Or when you search with Google, you can select a little toggle to show only results of images that have a Creative Commons license. That way you don't have to worry about accidentally using someone else's copywritten work when you're trying to work fast like this. They're also all great resources for finding reference in general. Let's do a quick design checklist rundown. We've got a runny sort of blood texture. Boom. I'm using a basic, not fully opaque round brush amidst loads of texture. Yeah, right. And as far as evoking a feeling of Halo 1, I'd say so. I don't know, that can be up to you. Oh, and if you like seeing this more gritty and grounded type of military sci-fi look, well, I like it a lot too. And I've begun pre-production working on a manga that tells a story that I've been writing for some years now. And I'll be sharing some hand-drawn designs on this channel as well as my Patreon in the coming year. Obviously, the more support I get on Patreon, the more efforts I can put towards that. Until then, I'll continue making other art and commentary videos as well. I'm working on a follow-up video briefly touching on the difference between the visual design choices and differences between Bungie and 343's Halo. It'll mostly be based off a script I wrote like 3 years ago, so while it's not really about the new Halo CE remake, I might try and touch on it too. Anyway, did I succeed in my design goals? I believe overall I captured the color and textures of how Halo CE felt like in my mind as a kid, and I think I generally did an okay to middling job of adopting a concept art style workflow. Although I will say Procreate says that it still took me like 12 hours to make this painting, so I don't know if that really counts as a quick workflow, but come on, this is more like a refined concept art look anyway, right? Anyway, let me know what you think. Does my illustrated memory of Halo match yours? Let me know in the comments below. Art posters and prints of this and more can be found on my ArtStation store, and if you haven't already, go watch my Bloodborne trailer. Seriously, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.